Greetings. Let's talk for a minute. So, I've been playing long enough and traveled enough that I can say I have a lot of really different, really amazing friends, and I'm really lucky today because I've had a chance to sit down with one of my longer standing friends. I mean, decade plus at this point.
I think it's been about 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. This is Ladyship, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Grant holder like myself. Ladyship Liadan, who I, for better or for worse, might have tagged you as a, what was the quote, career MOC.
What can I say? I love the kids.
She does. One of the things I can say about Ministers of Children and Voice Heraldry both is that we spend a lot of time, for better or for worse, maybe being forgotten about by certain leadership. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to cross paths and socialize, kibitz, maybe complain to each other.
Maybe.
But Liadan, her whole family and my family, we have been friends for almost all of that 12 years, and she's been a driving force in the North. Don't let the humor understate this. There were whole runs of events where, if you want to know where any of the kids were, just look for Liadan, and they were all there. Children of all ages, 4 to 40. There were.
Yeah.
There was at least one incident where I saw a knight sitting Indian style with the paintbrushes in your kid circle.
Yep.
Not, and I say knight, I don't mean a young knight. This guy was 40 plus, 45, and just
at least my age.
Just happy as a clam sitting there painting. Who am I to judge? The stress these guys go under. So Liadan and I had this opportunity to sit down and talk for a few minutes, and I really wanted to give you guys a chance to hear a little bit about what Ministers of Children do, because there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people don't know. So, in my opinion, my humble opinion, quarter century playing in the SCA, the experience of Ministers of Children don't get more definitive than the effort and time Liadan has put into the role. So, I wanted to give her a moment. So, let's start off with, where did you come from in this? How did you get into the SCA?
Well, I kind of came out of nowhere. One of my best friends, my sister, not blood sister, but, my SCA sister, she kind of said, hey, let's go to Crown Tournament. Okay. What is this Crown Tournament? Well, you need funny clothes. Not a problem. We can do this. So 12 years later, here I am.
Yep. Holder of a grant of arms, protégé, an officer.
I've written a book.
Updated that book twice, if memory serves me.
No, I haven't updated it, but the Learning Library kind of updates it.
True. And on a current note, she is the writer, producer, curator, and so forth of the Learning Library, which there will be a link in the show notes. If you have anyone in your immediate circle who is under what's your target group? Probably
5 to 10, 11.
So, if they are biologically 5 to 11, intellectually 5 to 11, or emotionally 5 to 11, or any combination thereof, they might want to check the library out. And honestly, on a more serious note, I've had a chance to view a couple of hers. If you are a parent of someone who is in that age range, it might be worth it for you to take a few minutes and look at it, because there's a lot of material in there. Even if your kid won't sit through it, there's nothing saying you can't check out that same book or convey the same information, because a lot of kids do like being told stuff by a family member versus watching a video.
Absolutely.
And you've been working with children almost your whole time in the SCA.
Yes.
I think we informally dubbed you the Northern Regional Mama Bear at least twice in there.
This is a new one.
There were at one point someone commented to me, not knowing Liadan and no question of Liadan. I mentioned that their child, because I think it was their husband, had dropped the kid off at one of the activities. How safe is the kid with Liadan? And my comment was, the child could have the French National Army surrounding them, and she couldn't be safer than she is with Liadan. So, no, she's your dedication to the kids is well known, and your just unwaveringness in being protective and supportive and educational and nurturing it all at the same time is, I think, well founded. Let's talk about the Learning Library for a minute. How did that get started?
Well, it kind of came out of, well, we've got to do all this, how are we going to, I'm stuck at home with my kids,
Anyone today can relate to that.
And, my kids are at home, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really seeing a whole lot out there for the kids. And, well, Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers kind of popped into my head and said, do something for the kids. And that's kind of how I wanted to modulate my voice, because we're going through a unprecedented time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And parents are worried. Kids are worried. Because the parents are worried, they don't really understand, especially the smaller ones.
Yeah.
They needed a calm voice in the maelstrom.
And you've been how long? And this is not a new project. You've been at this for how long now? A year?
Yeah, the Learning Library was born out of quarantine.
So yeah.
Um,
Post March of 2020 at the dead minimum.
Yeah. April was kind of the whole setup
Okay.
of 2020. And then just going forward from there, because still the schools being closed and everything. So what can I do to help?
Obviously, especially with the new guidance from Kingdom about safety with children, and right now we've got the hold on children's activities. That does leave a lot of parents kind of up in the air about what can I do.
Well, and the Learning Library is actually there as a resource for parents, because, okay, you don't want a whole lot of screen time with your kids. You don't want a lot of screen time for your kids. You want, so as a parent, preview it, learn how to do it from, from anybody, really, and then take it and teach it to them.
And you do all sorts of stuff on there. You've read books, told stories,
There's
projects.
I have the Storytime videos, which is Myths, Legends, Stories, and Tales. And it goes through a number of different cultures and their fairy tales. Some of them are more modern. Some of them are, because they have a medieval theme. And then the Learning Library, which is loosely based off of the Youth and Family Achievement Program.
Okay.
I've used it as a lot of curriculum and which way to go with certain things, but a lot of it is just crafts and stuff that I'm interested in.
Now, if parents or guardians or even older siblings, I'd imagine, had any questions or comments or want to engage you, can they reach out to you directly?
They really shouldn't. I mean, now parents and guardians can, but the youth cannot.
Okay, so
just for safety reasons.
no, okay, that's fair. But if a kid has a question, they can go to their parent or guardian, but you through that metric, of course, keeping safety in mind. That's okay for if someone has a question for you? Or?
Yeah, they can reach out to me through say normal channels, because the videos on YouTube, if they are designed for children, they cannot have commenting, and that is to protect the children.
Yeah, absolutely. But there still, if nothing else, they could reach out to you through official channels, through your officer account, which will have that email address in the comments. And assuming someone sees this 3 years from now and that email is not current, or you've moved on a different office, definitely reach out to. I'm going to go off the deep end here, and let's assume you're not going to be leaving the good barony anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
Yeah, so you could probably reach out to the Baron, the Baron or Baroness accounts at Wiesenfeuer, and trust me, they'll know who Liadan is. I'd imagine our grandchildren will have officers who know who Liadan is long after we're gone. Now, learning library aside, which by the way, I've always been impressed that library started off very small and very humble, and it's grown. I mean, you're at how many videos now?
The library itself, I think, is up to 20 some odd. The story times are up to like 42
so
now.
You've produced 85 videos, 86 videos, and these aren't just clean shot. It's shot, edited, fades, and and this is all an in-house thing.
Yep.
So she's been at this longer than I have, guys. I mean, this is someone who I was looking at when I was looking to do the Let's Talk series. So she's got a huge volume of work here, and one of the things I want to do with this video is make sure people understand this is a huge resource, and people need to know about it. But let's take a step back from your work as MOC and library. Suppose a parent sees this and their kid was involved in the SCA, and now they have to take a back seat for a little bit because of activities. What can a child effectively stuck at home or stuck at their parent's hip for the duration of an event? What can they do? What kind of things?
They can, if now, are we talking about a child at an event that can't participate in an activity because?
That's very. It's a wide question. Let's start with a child at an event.
Okay. A child at an event can do so many things. I mean, you can find a herald.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ask to learn what the herald does. I mean, and that's one-on-one. Certainly the herald and the parent need to converse.
All of this done with the understanding, and this really, there's no difference between now when we're in no children activity and with children's activities. Parental involvement has to be established.
Exactly.
I don't want to sound like we're circumventing that. If your kid wants to do something at an event and it's not a specific MOC activity where they have the 2 deep rule and the supervised adults, the parent needs to be involved in this at a fairly substantial level. So I don't want to gloss over that in the least. But they could, it sounds like you're saying if anything they're interested in, they could at least ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They
You're
say
told no.
Yeah, you're told no. And, sometimes it's because a child is
too young.
Or perceived too young.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have a precocious
5-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we knew a few of those in our time.
Yes, he's now 20. The other one is now what, 16?
Yeah. Then of course there's Kitty. Long story across all 3 of those. But I mean, and let's just go down the summary list. Ceremony alone, there's standard bearers holding the banners. You could ask about that. I know if you ask ahead of time and coordinate, I'd imagine working with Court Herald. I know plenty of court heralds that wouldn't mind having someone just hold stuff next to them because tables are kind of scarce up there.
Yeah. You can ask in the kitchen, especially with the older kids.
Yep.
Ask in the kitchen.
List mistressing, running the cards from the fields back to list mistress's table. We used to do that all the time, and then it kind of fell out, which I get it because a bunch of the kids got older and there weren't people having kids at that moment, so there was a dead gap. But no, if your kid is old enough that I can hand him or her 2 index cards, and they're reliable enough to run about 20 yards to a table and hand the cards over without mixing them up, and then run back to me. They can run. They can be a runner for list heralding, and
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, save my knees.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much they can get involved in.
And really, rather than go down the whole list, which would take an hour and be pointless for effectiveness purposes,
Right.
Ask your kid, and don't ask them ahead of time what you're, in my opinion, don't ask them ahead of time what are you interested in or what do you want to do. When they get there, just take them by the shoulders, point them in the general direction of the event, and they go, what catches your eye? Maybe he wants to go talk to the pretty lady in the 50-color dress. Okay, I mean, I know some relationships that started on wilder suggestions. Or maybe she wants to go talk to the guy putting on plate armor. Okay, we need more women fighters. I'm not going to discourage that conversation.
Sure.
But just because there are not dedicated children's activities, which we're all looking forward to when that comes back, does not mean your children are not welcome at an event and there's not things for them to do. It means that we as parents, because both of us are parents, just have to invest a little bit more energy than we were before and be a little bit more involved. And it's not saying any of us were uninvolved, but the MOC did offer a heavily supervised environment where we could be a little disengaged and maybe catch our breath.
Yes, and there is a common misconception that we are a babysitting service.
Yes, that's...
And that's really kind of a yes and no question. I mean, you would say that about school, too. Because you drop your kid off in the morning and you pick them up in the afternoon.
An actual sanctioned MOC activity is a place where a child can be left heavily supervised without the parent needing to be in the eyesight rule, I believe, as it is. And it's the only
eyesight earshot.
Yeah, that's the only circumstance the SCA officially says you don't have to be eyesight earshot. So, and I get it. I got one in the other room, so I understand. It's nice to not have this self-propelled, wrecking ball glued to your hip. But
it also gives parents a breather.
Yeah.
And it allows them to go and give service elsewhere.
Yep. And a lot of the kids at these activities, they make lasting friendships.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of them come out of it with more ideas, things to do. They learn things they can do in the SCA. General, there have been a couple of classes I remember you teaching where they just came out of it learning manners that they hadn't been taught before. It's not that they were bad kids, but there's an ethic to, when you go to shake someone's hand, don't give them a wet fish and grab it, good firm handshake. And,
absolutely.
When a 6-year-old does it, you know something about him at that point.
And, yes, children argue, especially when it's been a long 40th year.
Adults argue after the end of a long event, so they come about it honestly.
Yeah, and it's just one of those, they're tired, they're grumpy, they've had so much fun, they just don't know what to do with themselves.
Yep.
And they might be being naughty because of that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. So, at the end of the day, there are resources out there for kids and parents in the SCA. And we still have youth programs just at this particular moment for safety purposes and overabundance of caution. We're choosing to keep congregational activities to a dead minimum. But this too shall pass. We're going to have activities again. We're going to be out there with
look forward to that
swarms of these little pre-adolescent beasts ready to move mountains I do have. I'm going to side rail this for just a second. I do have a funny story for you.
Oh no.
No, my first Gulf War is back when I was about 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. It was before you and I went together.
Okay.
I was at Scribes Point. And it was a bunch of pop-up pavilions strung together. And the winds were kicking up. And the head scribe there was saying, they had these big 5-gallon cat litter containers, the empty ones. They're like, we just need to fill these with dirt. and her back was going out. My back hurt. The other scribe who was there was limited mobility. She did not need to be leaning over and shoveling anything. And they're like, we have all the stuff, what are you going to do? And I go, watch this. I grabbed the cart, I grabbed the buckets, and I walked across the road. And I walked back 5 minutes later and I said, take a look. And they all lean out. And there's this line of 20 kids. The oldest one couldn't have been more than 8. And the end 4 were using their hands to shovel all dirt in a pile. And the next 2 were using 2 buckets to shovel the dirt into a bigger pile. And the other one, there's like 3 more were grabbing trowels and shoveling it into a big, like 1-gallon bucket. And then 3 of them would grab the bucket and dump it into the big cat litter bucket. And they had this machine going. It took them about 15 minutes to fill all of them. And then they grabbed broomsticks and they ran a broomstick through the handle. And it was like 6 on each side. And of course it's a 5-gallon bucket filled with dirt. So this is not light.
No.
And they all got together and they held this thing up and they trucked over. They go, here you go, and dropped it down. And they had all 6 of them filled in half hour. And they were happy. I mean, they were thrilled. I was like, my back thanks you. And I tell that story partially because it's fun and partially because the kids did a great thing. But I think it's safe to say that if we take the time and get creative and engage kids, they can give back in spades, and they can really help.
Yeah.
Just need to make sure they don't take the tent apart in the process.
But what if they want to do something with the tent pole?
As long as I'm not under it when it comes down. That's my one qualifier. So, Liadan, it has been an absolute blast getting a chance to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And I definitely am, I cannot say this enough, guys. You need to check out the Learning Library. It is it's an amazing resource. And if you do need to get a hold of Liadan, if you have any questions for her, definitely go through official channels, go through the email address linked in the comments or linked down below in the show notes, or talk to the officers in the Barony of Wiesenfeuer, Kingdom of Ansteora, and they'll be able to get the message to her. So, until then, unless you have any closing thoughts, no? I'll see you all at the next event. Goodbye, and God bless.